Hello guys, welcome back to a brand new episode of PJ Codes. In this video, we're going to do something very exciting. We're actually going to start styling our web page. Okay, now in our last videos, I remember what we did is we built out a solid web page. We used different elements like divs, sections, articles. We learned about headings and all that cool stuff. Now it's actually time to get into the more exciting things, like actually adding colors, structures, fancy font, things like that, where we can actually say that, hey, look, we built a pretty solid web page, right? But before we move forward, definitely like, subscribe, and share this video with all your friends. Okay, so first things first, what is styling? How do you add styling to a web page, right? The simplest answer to that is using something called CSS. Okay, now what is CSS? Now I remember I explained this in one of the last videos, so if you watched it, you should remember, but if you haven't seen it, definitely go check it out. Now what does it mean to actually style our website or our web page, right? By styling, we mean adding colors, adding different fonts, so like a fancy font, like a cursive versus something called like a sans serif or like a monospace font. By styling, we can add structures to a page. We can add, say, different columns, different layouts, different grid layouts as well. Also, what we can do is we can add, some fancy animations. And then what we can do is we can even change colors. You say like a background color, add some big, background images. Say we enter a website, we have this big hero element and we have nice background image. We can do that using CSS styling. Before we even start writing full-fledged CSS, what we're going to do is we're going to start incrementally. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by writing inline styles. Now, inline styles basically just means that we're going to take, say, some styling commands and we're going to put it inside the actual structure of the HTML element itself, instead of, say, breaking it off into a separate style sheet. Just like we have an HTML document, we have something called a style sheet where all the styles for our web page or the website really lives within. And so if you're ready to start styling your website, definitely watch the entire video and I'll catch you guys in the end. Alright guys, so let's start. Now in our previous video, we laid out a pretty solid web page here. We have a nav bar, we put a hero section here where we have our heading, we have a subtitle, we have some description text as well, and then we have our featured blog here with our heading and our article text wrapped in a p tag, and this basically represents a featured blog article, and then we have our read more button. And then following that, we have our contact form where we put some checkboxes for a subscription, a blog subscription, to contact us. And below that, we have our footer. Now, we went over some pretty standard HTML elements, like the summary tag, the section tag, the article tag, and the button tag as well. And then we also went a little deeper into the form and labels and things like that. And then we also did some pretty basic styling here. We created our nav element, and then we just basically made all the list items inside this unordered list inline. And just to show you guys here, if you haven't watched the previous video, definitely go check it out. It'll lay a solid foundation for styling. And just to reiterate, nevertheless, we have our nav bar here, and then we have our unordered list, and then within that we have each list item, and we are displaying them in line, which again means all in one line. And we set our list style type to none, which means that our list here doesn't have any bullet points since it's unordered, opposed to ordered, which would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go element by element, and I'm going to teach you guys how to just do some very basic inline styling. Okay, there's two ways you can write, really 3 ways you can write your CSS, and three basic ways I should say, and there's more once you get into frameworks and Sass and CSS, SCSS and less and all that stuff. That's topics for way down the road. However, you can write your styling just like this, and this is called inline styling, okay, because they're inline to the native HTML element. Or likewise, you can write your styles inside an HTML tag page, inside something called a style tag. So we open caret, write style, and type text CSS. Type followed by an equal to sign, and then we have our double quotes. Okay, within this, we can just write our CSS here. Say for example, HTML, open curly brace, close curly brace, and this is how we write our CSS. Okay, and this is just for demonstration purposes. Say we wanted to change the background color of our page, so we just do background color, and then we would just do, say, yellow. Okay, and let's follow by the semicolon. Let's hit save. This annoying message. Let's hit save. Let's go back, hit refresh, and there we go. Okay, so in a nutshell, 3 ways to write your CSS: inline, using the style tag, and this basically tells the HTML page that, hey, between these style tags we have some CSS, and render these styles pertaining to these elements here, based on whatever you select, whatever your HTML selectors are. So let's get rid of this guy here, and let's just focus on inline styling for now. So say for our, let's go back, refresh. Let's say for our nav bar, we want to make this nav bar, let's say a different color, right? So let's go into our nav, and let's do space. Now we're gonna at the very end of the element, that's where we are. So we hit space, and we're gonna type in style, hit enter. So we have our equal to sign, and everything's wrapped inside these equal to sign, these quotes here, these double quotes. You can write single quotes too. It's really preference. Conventionally, most people just go with the autocorrect, so keep it simple. All right. So now here, let's do background color, and notice we have our semicolon. Everything's wrapped inside double quotes again. So we have our style equals to, and then we have all our styles wrapped in double quotes, and then we have our actual CSS styling command. All right, right after the semicolon we have space, and let's say we want to make it orange red. Weird color, right? But it's one of my favorites. And let's say hit semicolon. So now rule, after every CSS command like that, we must end our line with the semicolon. Okay, and this just basically tells the compiler that, hey, this line is this command is now over. We can skip to the next command. Okay, let's hit save. Let's go back to our browser, hit refresh, and there we go. Now we have a color, our orange right here. But you must be wondering, hey, what's all this space here, right? It's kind of weird. So let's get rid of that space. Now, if you were to notice that we have some extra space above the actual HTML content here, above our unordered list and beneath, right? Opposed to, say, the side here on the left and on the right here. The reason that is because some HTML elements, such as our unordered list, our p tags, our h1 tags, they come standard with some spacing around them, which is called padding. Okay, so what we can do is, for our unordered list, let's take out some of that extra spacing there, and then you'll have a better picture as to what I'm talking about. All right, after our semicolon, let's hit space. Let's do padding, semicolon, space, and let's just do 0 pixels to be specific, and let's hit semicolon. Let's hit save. Let's go back to our browser and hit refresh. There we go. Now we just got rid of some of the padding inside the unordered list. Okay, but now what about the outside, right? Now for that we have something called margin. Now notice I told you that we have some default padding, some default spacing that comes with, say, unordered list, h1 tags, p tags. So padding, it refers to the space inside an element. So everything in orange here is the unordered list. Okay, everything in orange is the unordered list. Now there's space inside an element, which is called padding, which we just removed, but there's also space outside an element, which is called margin. Okay, margin refers to the space that is outside an element, and I'll show you that. I'll show you in just a couple of seconds what I'm talking about. Okay, so let's go back to our unordered list, and let's type in margin, semicolon, space 0px and semicolon. So let's hit save, and now let's refresh. There we go. All right, you see how it moved up? Now there's equal space on both sides. All right, and left, right, top, bottom, right? That is because we got rid of the default margin around our unordered list. Okay, now you must be wondering, hey, you know, what's all this spacing here around the page, right? Now notice how I mentioned that each HTML element comes with default space, margin and padding. So does our body element, right? So if here's our body element and here's our HTML element. Okay, now on our body element, let's just go into the DevTools, and I'll just show you here for just for showing. If we do padding 0 pixels and hit enter, nothing happens, right? Because our we don't from this point on. Whoops. From this point on here, this whole line here, everything that wraps this document here, this is the body right here. All the blue is the body. If we were to add padding to our body, let's say we were to add padding of 10 pixels. Now you see how everything's shrunken, and to say if we were to go even further down, I'm just hitting the up arrow, you see how it just increases the padding. That represents the inner space. And let me just show you guys. Let's just do 50, right? So now if we hover over our body, you see the green space? That's the padding, right? Everything on the outside border is of the outside border of the green box. That's our body element. That's our body tag. Okay, and from our outside border, we added 50 pixels. So basically, we added a spacing of 50 pixels inside the entire body tag on the left, right, top, and bottom. And basically, that just added 50 pixels on the right, on the top, on the left, and on the bottom as well, right here. Okay, but let's take that out. And now, let's go to our HTML element. Okay, now, what do you think is going on here? Now, let's say we put padding, and we put 0 pixels. Nothing happened as well. Right? Why do you think that is? Because in our HTML element, we don't have any padding for our HTML element, right? For our body style here, we didn't have any padding either. However, we have some margin. If see how I hover over the body tag, you see that orange that's on the outside of the body tag? That's the margin. Okay? So on our body tag, if we were to take out the margin to 0 pixels. There we go. Now you see how it got rid of all that white space? Good. Now let's do that here. Let me just refresh this guy here. Let's go back. And now this can give us a good introduction to the style tag. So inside our head tag, let's open caret. Let's type in style. Hit enter. And we have our type equals, open quote. And this guy here is just telling the HTML page that, hey, you know, this is a text. This style tag is going to have some text CSS in there, some CSS styles in there. Okay, so we're going to hit enter, and now let's target the body element. Okay, so let's do body space, open curly brace, and close curly brace. This is the structure of a CSS command. This is the body of a CSS command itself. All right, inside that we're going to hit space, and we're going to type in margin, semicolon, space 0px. Px stands for pixels. So let's hit save. Let's go back to the browser, hit refresh, and there we go. Now we got rid of all that extra spacing. And now we can individually add spacing to all our elements. So now what do we have in common? We have these section tags here, right? Section, 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 footer, right? And our nav. Now what we can do is we can define a class. We can define something called a class, right? And a class will basically allow us to add a similar styling to whatever elements that we want. So say if we were to do create a class that gave us a padding of 20 pixels on every element. So the way we would do that is in our CSS. Well, yeah, let's start with the CSS. We would do dot, and this is how you target a class, and then we can write whatever name we want. So pad PAD dash MD, MD for medium. All right, so let's hit space. Let's open curly brace and close curly brace, and we're just going to define a style here, and we can do padding 20 px. So now in our HTML element, whatever element has this class name will inherit this style here. Okay, so for example, let's go to our nav element and let's write a class here. So we do class CLASS equal to sign, open and close quote, double quotes, and let's do PAD MD, the name of our class that we just defined in our CSS. Okay. Usually you would define your class in the HTML and just target it in your CSS after. That's like the order of doing things. So now just hit save. Let's go back to the browser, hit refresh, and you see how it inherited the styles from the style that we described here, padding 20 pixels. That's because our nav element, we injected the class of padding medium, and you see over here, down here, padding medium has a styling of padding 20 pixels, and we can toggle on and off. There we go. Okay. Now let's say we want to add it to all these guys here. All right, so we'll just, for shorthand, let's copy this guy. Let's add it to our class here, to our section here. Excuse me. Section 1, section 2, section 3, and our footer. All right, so let's hit save. Let's go back to the browser. Let's hit refresh. There we go. A little better? Looks a little better. There we go. Looks better to me. Okay. Why is this? Oh, yeah, because I added that weird HR there because we didn't have any styling. So it's right beneath the nav. So let's get rid of that guy there. Well, let's hit save. And we're going to get rid of all these HRs just, once you add some styling. Okay. So now let's say we want to add some particular styling to this first hero section here. Okay. So we did the nav bar. Okay. And you know what? Let's just stick with the nav stylings for a minute. Let's say we wanted to change our text color to white. So we would just, after our semicolon, let's do color, semicolon, colon, excuse me, and then we would just do white. Okay, let's hit semicolon, save it. Let's go back. Why did that happen? That happened because we have A tags here. Okay, now in our A tags, basically because they're links, it inherits a default color of blue. So that's why you didn't see the color change. All right, so we'll get back to that in a minute. I just wanted to display that to you guys. Okay, so now let's go to our section. Let's say we want to add a, just say we want to add a color, a background color here. So we just do style, background color. Let's do, I don't know, violet, since it's Valentine's Day, almost. Hit semicolon. Let's hit save. Let's go back. There we go. That's actually not a bad color combo. I don't know. Okay. So now we could keep doing this for every element. We could just keep adding these random, styles. But what would happen if we wanted to add font color here? Say we wanted to add some more, some different fonts. Say we wanted to bolden this line or italicize this line here, and change some color, change this line color to, I don't know, red, for example. I don't know why you would do that, but you get my point. Imagine injecting all those styles into this one guy. Imagine how messy that would be, and how unmaintainable that would be, right? So for that, we have a temporary solution here, which I'm going to, in our next videos, we're going to get into actual style sheets. But to my point, let's give this section something called an ID. Okay, so let's space here. Now remember how we have class, remember how shitty we had class, and basically this one class can be shared with all the elements that you want. Now on ID, say you wanted to have the same class, for all these elements, but you wanted to only target, say, this this particular section here. That's when an ID comes in, and an ID is it's particular to that particular element. You cannot reuse IDs at all. You cannot have duplicate IDs. Okay, so let's hit space. Let's do ID. Okay, and let's just call this home hero. Okay, that can be the ID for this section here. And if we do, let's just copy this, and let's say in our CSS we want to, and we can name this section here utilities. Okay, utility classes. Utility means we can just keep reusing them. And now let's do command and question mark, and that's going to add a comment for us. Okay, and again, a comment, this is not going to get run in the actual CSS here, because that's the purpose of a comment, right, is to just add helpful guidance to the reader. Okay, and now let's add another comment here, and let's call this hero section styles. Okay, and I usually like to add spaces here just for readability. Now the way you target an ID is with the hashtag. Everyone knows what a hashtag is, right? And just you can just type in your ID name, hit space, open curly brace, space, enter, excuse me, and now again you have the standard body of a CSS command. Now let's say for our home hero section here, let's just get rid of this guy here. Let's move it here. Let's copy this. Let's get rid of it until there. Okay, let's add our background color, and let's change this to let's say purple. No, blue. Let's do blue or sky blue. Let's hit save. Let's go back, and there we go. All right, so now let's say we wanted to change our font style to italicized. So let's do font style and italic. Okay, let's hit save. Let's go back. There we go. Now we have some decent, very basic styling. Okay, and now let's get rid of this HR underneath here, and let's hit save. And now you have a more legitimately styled section. Now you can just go ahead and just keep doing the same thing for all these sections, but I just want to introduce you guys to inline styling and style tags inside your HTML, along with when to use IDs, when to use classes, and things like that. And now you should have a pretty solid understanding of what classes are, what IDs are, and how to use them. So play around with it, see what you come up with. Use the previous videos. If you haven't watched, definitely watch the previous videos, and comment below, send me a message, and I would love to see what you guys come up with. And in our next video we'll get into some more detailed stuff. But anyways, thanks for watching. Well, that's it for this time, guys. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Make sure you like and subscribe and hit that bell icon for those notifications. I'll catch you guys next time.